Hello, everyone. It's a special day here, Thursday. We're diving into winning mining strategies with none other than Dr. Quinton Hennigh. Many of you are here simply because of that, at Crescat Capital. But before that, 40 years in total, 40 plus years of operating investment decisions in precious metals mining industry. He's got his PhD from the geochemistry and geology from the Colorado School of Mines. He's worked at majors like Homestake Mining, which is, of course, Barrick Gold, New Crest, Newmont, lots of leading exploration companies. Joined the team at Crescat in 2021, has been attached to and included in successful projects like Kirkland Lake, Fosterville Mines in Australia, Newfound Gold's Queensway discovery in Newfoundland, Gold Valley deposit in the Yukon, and Goliath's Sherbet gold discovery. So many big wins, and we're real excited to talk to him about spotting some of these from a more technical point of view, not just from the market point of view. And we're really pleased to have you here. Thanks so much, Dr. Hennigh. How are you doing today?
Very good, Andrew. How are you? I've got to start by saying I'm in probably one of the most unusual locations you'll ever find an interview. I'm actually at Mayo Clinic. My wife is in surgery right now. We've had a number of these this year, so this is just actually the last one of many. But if I get a call, it'll be from a doctor here shortly, hopefully telling me she's out and she's done well. Okay, so I might have to go on pause for a minute, but I'll be right back.
It's absolutely no problem at all. We really appreciate you finding the time, especially in between such a stressful situation. And we appreciate you, talking to us with everything that's going on with your wife and with this surgery, having to do it. And it looks like a lobby of a hospital, but with lots of news happening out there as well. And we appreciate you
it's
doing
important we talk about the news that came out today for Barksdale. We'll get to there. Yeah.
Let's kind of set the stage, because this is kind of tied into Barksdale. And just as a big header, I don't work with Barksdale. I don't work with Goliath. I don't work with Crescat. But I do own them, and I do like them a lot for obvious reasons. And we'll let you kind of start it as to Barksdale's news release today, because that was a big deal. And a lot of people who aren't geologists might be looking going, ooh, I think that sounds good, but what am I reading?
Okay, well, it's an amazing story, really, because Barksdale has what I would call a commanding land position within one of the better-known mining districts in the U.S. This is the Hermosa district, which is in southern Arizona. It's a well-known district in that you have a kind of a classic situation where you have a large porphyry copper deposit, or porphyry copper system, we'll say, that's got a CRD, a carbonate replacement type system surrounding it. In fact, this is kind of the type locality for this particular model of deposits that we know in geology. And people like Peter McGaugh, very famous geologist who's well known in the silver space, has studied this area, used this area as a kind of a textbook model for the CRD setting. Okay, so where are we? Well, we have at Barksdale the core of the ground. Okay, we've got the porphyry on our side of the fence, and we also have a lot of area for CRD mineralization, but we also happen to be situated right next to the Taylor deposit, which is S32's current development project. S32 is an Australian mining company. South 32 is their real name. And S32 has committed to spending over $2 billion to fast-track develop this massive Taylor deposit. This thing is enormous. It's about 130 million tons of high-grade zinc, lead, and silver mineralization. And interestingly, they've also started to tag into a very high-grade copper system, which is also related to this overall metal district or metal province, and that's called the Peak deposit. Okay, so we happen to be right next to Taylor and Peak, and we've now completed and announced, I shouldn't say we've completed, we are drilling our first successful hole down into the target realm of the regime, where we would expect to see the continuations of these ore deposits. Okay, so this news that came out just a few hours ago, I would consider extremely positive. It's It's announcing that we've hit a 10-meter intercept. Hole's still going. It is deep and it's a tough go, but we're still drilling. But we've hit a 10-meter intercept with very clear, visible signs of strong copper mineralization. Also seeing a lot of the lead and the zinc minerals that we would expect too. So really, really excited about these results. I think we have now clearly demonstrated we have the rest of these world-class mineral deposits.
Now, you mentioned Dr. McGaw. I watched actually an interview that Terry Ann Wilkie, who works with Barksdale, with Dr. McGaw, talking about the system as well. And it was a good example explaining what he saw. And I think he's looked at that project, that area for decades.
Yes.
And it's pretty rare to have two big names in a space, both very excited about one project. And I think that's quite unique, and that you both see big, significant potential here, and you're quite open and active, activist about it. Let's just say.
That's right. Look, these big mineral districts are hard to find, and what do I mean by that? Well, look at other classic porphyry CRD districts around the world. You've got like Bingham Canyon in Utah, absolutely extraordinary porphyry deposit in its own right. But what most people probably don't even remember is that in the early days, these CRD deposits that encircled Bingham produced huge volumes of metal. Okay, these things were world-class deposits, and they really helped foster the industrial development of the United States back in the early days. Okay, so these things can be game changers in terms of what they can deliver in value, but also in metal endowment. Like they're the kind of prize that big companies just love. And I think we're starting to see the very clear signs we have that on our property.
And you can look at a picture from Sunnyside. It's like literally, it's adjacent. And I don't mean like closeology. You could take a photo of the South 32 working from the property. It's literally attached, and that's also kind of interesting too, when people want to get a sense of, well, how close are you talking?
Well, actually, if you could put that news release back up that you had, somebody put it on there just a minute ago. Put it up there again. Let's scroll down a little bit, because there's a couple images that show the relative proximity of these other deposits. When I'm talking about, there we go, exactly. Yep. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a plan view. This is looking down on the Hermosa district. Okay, that big pink and orange area that you see there is basically the porphyry center. That is the mothership, the heat engine for this mineral system. Then you see these purple, gray, and green blobs. What are those? Well, the purple blobs that you see there, that is the footprint of the Taylor deposit. It's basically the known area of mineralization in the subsurface. So it's kind of projected up, into plan view here for our understanding. But that is the Taylor deposit. Over more to the east there, to the right, you have the Clark deposit, which is mainly manganese. Okay, that's kind of the outer portion of the system. When you get out to that regime, you're into the manganese end of the we'll call it the fumes, the exhaust of the system. But what I really want to point out is that Peak deposit. Okay, right now it's a relatively small area, but that little green blob there, the Peak deposit, is where S32 has been, as we understand it, hitting extraordinary intervals of copper mineralization. A lot of 1 to 2% intervals over 100 or hundreds of meters, and that is in what we call a proximal skarn rather than a CRD. What does that mean? It means that the rocks there are baked up by an intrusion, and the intrusion has basically made that area really conducive for hosting copper mineralization. Okay, now look at that drill hole that we have. Okay, that cross section AA prime is kind of hiding the drill hole, but that drill hole goes down and it tests this really critical area where we have Taylor and the Peak deposit likely projecting onto our ground. What did we hit? Well, look at this core. Okay, this This is coming from a little over 1,300 meters depth, but you can see very clearly the rock is heavily broken, but we have lots of sulfides. And in particular, we're seeing very large quantities of chalcopyrite, which is a copper mineral, as well as galena, which is a lead mineral. Okay, to me, what this says, we must be in a fairly proximal environment. In other words, we're seeing kind of that peak type, component to the system. But with the galena and the lead, we're also seeing the Taylor type component to the system too. Okay, so we're kind of in this hybrid regime where I think we're going to see very high grades of both copper and lead, zinc, silver as well. Kind of a hybrid, if you will. What does that mean for us down the road? Look, as we drill this thing out, I think we could see a very large volume of this. And this kind of rock, assays pending. Okay, caveat, we have to get assays for this, but visually this looks good. I would expect this thing to have some pretty decent numbers. We'll see. We got to get our assays back. But if we do, I think this could be a very, very good outcome. This looks like the stuff we've been chasing for a few months now.
And I mean, to put that in a bit of a context for someone like myself, I see, of course, South 32 developing this mine, but also seeing, and not to get into politics, but just as far as permitting, Trump coming out saying any project with $1 billion plus, we're going to fast track permitting. I mean, that's the type of thing as well, just in a context of someone who's looking at projects, this idea of logistics, critical metals, making sure the U.S. is manufacturing. That someone goes, okay, I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. Permitting is going to go faster. Things are going to move lightning fast. We need to find the stuff and then develop the stuff.
And that's really important. I think that's a good thing to point out. A lot of people focus on the exploration. What do we have? Looking at the setting and the story here in terms of its context for the United States, very important. Even a few months ago, there were indications under the current administration that projects like this, that Taylor would be allowed to fast track. Okay, so that was a good sign. That was a good indication. That's why S32 committed the $2.1 billion to develop it. Okay, but now we're being told, even better news in that the incoming administration is likely going to make these things more tax friendly and easier to permit yet. Okay, so I think this is a perfect storm in terms of making the perfect discovery and an environment, a political environment where it can be moved forward very quickly in a first world country. Do not forget, the United States is a great place to operate, and it's going to need these metals, now and for many years to come. This is a great story.
Excellent. Now we're going to jump back and forth to a bunch because I want to talk without getting too much in the weeds into geology and whatnot, but I know that you can explain things to a retail investor very well. And we wanted to kind of pick your brain technically and look at some of the other projects that you guys have had great success with, and say even like in different regions, say Snowline. So Snowline has been a great success. Crescat Speed has done very well with it. What did you see there? Because once again, very different geology, different geography, different zone. It's very different. What did you see there? That is there any kind of process if someone's looking that they go, okay, you saw this here in Arizona and you're seeing this up here in Snowline, Yukon. What did you see there? I guess what I'm getting at.
I'm going to tell you that we were part of the Snowline story at pre-IPO level, so we got in early. I've known the Berdahl family, Scott and his dad, Ron, for many years now. Probably, I can't even think of how many years, but Ron's probably 20, 25 years now. And Scott, I've known for many years as well. I remember one day they came to my house. I think it was around 2004, and I met Scott for the first time. He's a young lad at that point. I think he was probably in his mid-teens or so. I can't remember. But, Scott, incredibly bright young geologist. He went to MIT. He went to King Abdullah's University in Saudi Arabia. He has a nose just like his dad for prospecting, and they've been chasing these projects in Yukon for many, many years. Okay, this is not a story that was made in a year or two. This was a story that goes back many, many years. Okay, and they staked this area. after some pretty basic work was done in the Yukon that indicated there were large gold systems hiding out here. Okay. Nobody knew quite at the time what type of gold systems might be hiding, but the stream sediment data from this region said there were some big deposits hiding. And I remember that they collected some of the first samples from this valley area. And I think this is going back like 2013 or 14. I remember seeing photographs of outcrops showing sheeted veins. Okay. And man, I'm telling you, as a geologist, I got very excited because the mineralization in those photographs looked very much like some of the reduced intrusive type deposits I've seen around the world. And this includes like Fort Knox in Alaska, a nearly 10 million ounce deposit. So the early photos I saw got me very intrigued. We jumped in at pre-IPO level, but then we watched the story super closely. Okay, when they were drilling in 2021, the very first season, towards the end of the season, they drilled a few holes, a handful. I think it was like 3 or 4 holes into the valley target. Now, those holes happened to be in an area on the west side of the intrusive target, but they hit bigly. Okay, they hit 100 plus meters of 1.x gram per ton. I remember telling the guys at Crescat, and I'm a geologic and technical director of Crescat, so I advise them on investments. I remember telling them, guys, buy with both fists, and they were just picking off shares. They were picking off shares every day. They were in the market. They soaked up a lot of the shares that came free trading, after the IPO. They basically just sat there and mopped up the whole, free float of the company there for a period. And then we were also lucky to get in when they went back to drilling in 2022. We were also lucky to get in at a private placement level and expand our position further. It's just one of those things where when you see something that's a no-brainer like that, and they don't come along very often. They don't come along very often at all. They can be tough, but when you see a no-brainer like that, you just jump in and don't ask questions.
This is one of the key critical benefits to being in a fund like Crescat, is that you get your technical advisement, but you're able to pick off these types of IPOs, to see them, to get in there like early, to then also get involved in continuing financing, and that's what makes these types of funds very attractive, and especially the position that Crescat has, because you're in. I mean, I've said before, I say it quite often, whether it's with Tavi or whatnot, I watch the Friday shows a lot, and you've got a lot of great companies you guys cover that are sitting quite nicely this moving forward here.
We've been fortunate. We've had a number of wins. We do have a portfolio of about 65 or 70 different companies, but having wins like Snowline, and now I think Barksdale is going to be one of the next ones on the queue here to really take off as a advances. So look, this is very early days. This is real time. This is just finally hitting the target. Okay, so we've got a lot of work to do. But I love to see success like this. I'd like to invest at this level. I think we've, in the mining space and investing space, I think we've lost sight of the fun of discovery, and it's a shame. I would like to see that return. I would like to see people make money on discoveries like this, because this is real tangible wealth. Okay, there's very few ways of creating wealth in the world. One of them is to find a deposit that nobody knew about, and that can add a huge amount of wealth.
And like you said, I mean, the stock, I think today is at, sorry, we lost you there for a minute. Sorry, and I started talking.
Yeah, no worries. It might have cut out just briefly. Look, if you look at Arizona Mining, for example, which drilled the Taylor deposit, and it took them a few years to drill. And I remember Don Taylor and his team drilling that thing systematically for quite some time. They ended up selling that deposit for, I think, 1.6 billion US, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay, those are the things that dreams are made of, and that's why Barksdale is so important here. We've got the down dip continuation of that deposit. I think we have potentially the better part of it, okay? Because I think we're going to see the higher grades, given that we're very close to the porphyry source.
This is the type of excitement that we need to hear and see as well, because, like you said, some of the FOMO has been shifted over to ridiculous meme coins and whatnot lately, and people think, oh, it's lots of volume, I can make lots of money, but they forget that this is real. Like, yes, it's going to take you a bit more time, and it's not that much more time, but you're actually doing something physical that's in the real world, that's required for all infrastructure, all growth, all energy, any of the transition, any of the crypto or AI, anything that is made is going to come from the ground, from mining. And once people kind of get their head wrapped around that opportunity is there, and that, say, for example, I think Barksdale's at 20 cents today, that's a steal. Like, that's for someone who's got a speculative interest that wants to be involved in something, and they're hearing this from someone who's got this much experience, who's had this many wins. It's pretty compelling.
There's not many of these out there, and the world's not going to, shy away from metal anytime soon. It's not like everybody's going to give up their living standard. Okay, so these these resources are going to be more and more in demand, and I know it's been painful for a lot of investors in this space recently, but the day will come. Okay, and I think we're starting to see that turnaround here right now.
And then also with Barksdale, I mean, some of the pain, I guess, as well. Someone who's new might look and go, well, what happened? Go, well, wasn't it like 6 years in permitting that? I mean, it was held up because now that's done as well. That's gone. So if you're looking at it new, that pain is in the past. But the people that first got in were like, oh my God, what's happening? So that's kind of where we're at the stage now, where that's done. You're getting close to these targets. You're saying you're close to the porphyry, which, I mean, that's very exciting. And there's assay results pending coming soon.
That's right. Yeah. Look, it did start out with a kind of a permitting overhang, and it took for years to get to that point where they could drill. But we have a lot of runway now. I mean, basically the sky is the limit here.
That's great. And that's what we want to see. We want to see these stories that, because, I mean, it's tough. People, they hark on, say, the junior exploration side is like, oh, well, where did the money go on the ground, and which one's good, which one's not? There's so many, there's money spread out, and there's all sorts of complaints. And that's partly because it's an unloved sector. But that's also, if you like Warren Buffett, which makes this so incredibly exciting, is that it's unloved by most of the world. It's absolutely critical and needed. And sooner or later, the world's going to wake up to it. And we're starting to see it with the occasional news flow in CNBC or in the Wall Street Journal, this acknowledgement that critical metals, we need to do something about it. But the two haven't really fully collided yet. And that's an opportunity for anyone retail.
That's true. That's a good way to put it. I'd like to see young people in particular start to take note of this, because when whatever happens in the crypto world happens, which could be bad, they're going to have to look for other places to put money. And this, might look like grandpa's investment some days, but metals and mining is going to be an important part of the world for years to come. And this is a place to invest. So.
Well, let's see if I can make you laugh a little bit too, because I did a live stream yesterday talking about some of these altcoin meme coins. And this might make you laugh or get angry, but one of these coins called, I'm not kidding, Fart Coin, has a 500 million market cap. It's a meme coin. Its mission is that it's a humorous coin to share ideas with other community members. And to me, I just think, I'd thought that part of what was holding people back in, say, the mining space was, it's risk capital. I look at that and go, there's no end to the risk that people are willing to take. They just need awareness and also just being told that, wait a second, can I make money? And I look at that and I think, my God, even if you take into account there's just the printing of the coin and whatnot, there's at least $50 million have gone into Fart Coin that could have went into mining, to tech, to robotics, to AI, to anything that would have been of worth.
It's kind of almost an existential threat in some ways, that people would invest in things like that, because if you think about it, there's a degree of that's investors telling the world, we don't have faith in anything, and we'll
Yeah.
put it into just some random thing here. That's not a healthy place for people to be. No.
Now, so I'm gonna jump into some gold stories, but this kind of, how could you explain to someone that's newer from a more geotechnical side to go, listen, there's 2,500 juniors. How do I identify, without giving the world away, some of the ones that are
Yeah.
more real than not? Especially if they're new and they're like right now they're listening to you and they go, okay, I can, like, you've got tons of experience. But what are some things if they want to look on their own? What should they be wary of or looking for to narrow down their top 10 or top 20 or ones that they should even consider? Is there any little cheats that you could kind of hand out?
Look, I mean, the geology is basically the fundamental that drives exploration stories. Okay, like, so that you can't get away from that. Okay, so first and foremost, are they looking for something that's big? Are they looking for something that's world class? Potentially that's going to be of interest to a major mining company, because really the product of a junior exploration company is making a discovery that's going to be desirable to be bought out. Okay, that's the fundamental thesis that we're working on. So you got to have a company that has that in mind. Companies chasing small targets, small things, you can filter those out pretty quick. Now, to make that discovery, you need good technical people. Okay, so I rate technical experience very highly, over the promotional ability. Like, there's good companies out there, good technical teams that don't necessarily have huge promotional ability. Okay, but I will put money into hands of a smart explorer before I put money into the hands of a slick promoter. Okay, so that's another important thing. The other thing I like to see is consolidated land position that covers the target. I don't like to see stories where, there's kind of piecemeal ownership of the land or complex ownership of the land or whatever. I like companies that have a commanding position over the geologic target that they're going for. Okay, that's critical. And then lastly, access to cash. I got to see companies that have an ability to tap cash, because there's a lot of companies, a lot of little companies that have good stories, simply don't have the cash in their hands to go out and explore. It's tough in this market. I think probably over 90% of the companies out there basically have just enough cash to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
We're not in a healthy environment right now. So, even in our portfolio, the number of companies that actually have money enough to go out and drill is very limited. But we've been lucky, and we do have a number of companies, like you mentioned earlier. Barksdale's now one, but Goliath, Snowline, things like this. These are companies that have been able to do their job and make discovery over the past few years.
Well, let's mention Goliath just quickly, because this is something we like.
Sure.
We've had Roger Rossman on the show a bunch of times. I do own it. It's fair as well, just so people know. But they had big news out today as well. What did you think of today? I mean, I know you speak highly of Goliath, and even on Crescat, you've got it mentioned that you're a technical advisor as well, and Crescat's actively involved.
Yeah, we have a pretty commanding position. I think we're close to 20% ownership.
20%, yeah.
And we jumped in early. We jumped in late 2020, I believe it was, when they had their first saw cut channels across the Sherbet zone.
Yeah.
The story has evolved quite a bit since then. They've been drilling. They drilled Sherbet the first year. They expanded as they saw more structures, more mineralized structures at depth. And then now more recently in 2024, they've been drilling this Bonanza zone, which is one of the deeper structures. That said, it's still, in terms of its geometry, it's still up on the side of the mountain, so it's not that deep. And this target is really paying off. It looks like it is basically the kind of maybe the high grade core of this system. Every gold system has, kind of a high grade feeder core, whatever, in my experience. And we're starting to see that here. Okay, so the drill results came out today. I think it was nearly 6 meters of 1.5 ounces per ton.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you like to see. And so far, the drill holes they have in various spots through this Bonanza zone are consistently thick. They're 5, 6, 7 meters.
Yep.
And they're consistently high grade. They're, in the tens of grams per ton. So, this is starting to shape up to be something that could be exceptional. A nice high grade discovery. that and ounces are not made equal. Okay, like
Yes.
if you found a resource, 1,000,000 ounces of 1.5 gram open pit, yeah, it's okay, all right, but finding 1,000,000 or 2 ounces or more, I'm not saying I know what the size is. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
high grade has a lot of value. It carries a lot of value. You look at Fosterville. Okay, when Fosterville was in production, or it's still in production, but when Fosterville was first discovered, I should say, the high grade, and they started mining it. I mean, their costs were down in the 400 US range.
Oh,
Ounces like that just
yeah.
absolutely kill a pig. They make a ton of money, and that's the kind of grades that we're seeing here. Very high grade results that should end up in making a very high margin mine at some point down the road.
Well, it was interesting to get that news release today, and maybe if we get a chance, we'll dedicate a day to talking about Goliath. But let's jump over to another. I mean, this is a big name one as well. That's a lot of success. Newfound Gold. That one also right up there. Snowline, Newfound Gold. I mean, tell us about
Yes.
that. How did that come about?
Okay, so the first encounter I had with Newfound was actually immediately before the pandemic. It was very interesting. I was up in Vancouver at a conference. Somebody connected with me who I was a mutual friend. In fact, he was a director of Newfound at the time. Newfound was private, and it wasn't even called Newfound. I can't remember what it was called, but he showed me some photos, and I said, "How did you get photos of Fosterville? Like, nobody should have photographs of Fosterville high grade." And he said, "This isn't Fosterville. This is a new discovery." And I said, "Wow," because that looks like the same kind of geology as Fosterville. I said, "I need to know more." So one thing led to another. I managed to get over to Newfoundland sometime in late January, early February to see the thing. This is before everything started shutting down. And in fact, one of the deals that worked out was I was so compelled that we did a share swap. We swapped some shares in Novo for we'll call it the IPO level or pre-IPO level shares to help set the valuation in Newfound. Okay, that was a great success. But setting that aside geologically, what I saw was an epizonal gold system, very high grade epizonal gold system, meaning shallowly deposited orogenic gold system, where you get these phenomenal grades. And you very seldom see these kind of systems on planet Earth because they tend to erode away. When they form, they tend to get uplifted and erode away. So when you see one, you got to take them seriously. Okay, so I was delighted to become part of that story early on. I've been a strong proponent of the story ever since. The work that they've done has been extensive. One of the challenges of high grade is you got to drill on very close spacing to kind of establish a resource.
Okay,
yeah. It is nuggety. It's you got to develop continuity and things like this. But they've been doing that work, and they've also trenched it recently, which I think helps tremendously. And I talked about this in a recent video at Crescat. The trench results came out a couple of weeks ago are starting to show consistency of high grade and continuity of high grade, such that they should be able to start putting together a picture where they have a solid resource. We'll call it a starter resource that they can build from. Now, in my view, the key of a deposit like this is you got to kind of grab the bull by the horns and just say, okay, we know there's probably a lot of gold here, but you got to kind of focus on building it into a mine such that mine can generate cash flow, and then you can use that cash flow to continue to explore it, knowing full well there's going to be lots and lots more to discover. So that's the kind of view I take with a discovery like Newfound.
Now we're coming up into a very interesting, exciting time for mining, especially here in Canada, because we get through the new year. We've got VRIC, we got PDAC coming up, lots of flurry of excitement. That tends to be a time when, everyone comes together. There's lots of deal talk. There's lots of discussions. I imagine, I don't think it'd be too much of a secret to think there must be tons of M&A rumors. There's probably all sorts of meetings going to be happening this year. It looks like it would be shaping up. I mean, last year was great enough. There was tons of M&A, lots of big, huge deals. There's got to be a lot of, I think, anticipation that there's majors looking either to replenish deposits that are decreasing and upping production. there's got to be a lot of excitement about what's coming up here January, February, March.
There is. I mean, we saw it today. You know, 03 is getting bought by Agnico, which is a great outcome, by the way. And yet another success for the Cisco guys. You know, you saw Goldfields buying a Cisco up in Quebec there, Windfall, recently. I mean, that's a testament to, you know, what a great discovery can yield. Okay, very good values. I think we're going to see that trend continue. It's not like there's, you know, an abundance of high quality assets like this being found out there, but anything that's, you know, big, consistent, high grade is going to be very attractive from here going forward. The miners are starting to wake up. We're seeing that M&A really pick up. We're seeing it in the gold space and other areas, like, you know, Filo was bought recently too.
Yes.
We're also seeing the premiums go up. I think one of the things I'm noting here recently is that a lot of the transactions, even the acquisitions, say, to pick up the assets Newmont has deemed non-core. You know, if you look, they've I think taken in over $3 billion for those assets when they were hopeful they could get two. Okay, so that tells me that the price tag on acquisitions is going to go up. That's the dream. Okay, going back to our discussion a few minutes ago, the thesis is these explorers find the discoveries that are going to be tomorrow's mines, and we got to see that M&A pick up and these prices pick up so that everybody can see, wow, investing in explorers is a good way to go. This is how we make our money.
And especially if you do a bit of homework. And if you don't want to do any homework, once again, you can just call Crescat. You can get involved in a fund. You guys give plenty of education, plenty of knowledge every Friday. There's lots of ways they can keep in touch with you guys to get updates. But for those that are really kind of keen on the sector as well, you can hear things like, you know, Goliath or Barksdale, and take a peek at them. Do a little bit of hard work. I mean, because the best way to get excited, involved in something is be curious and start reading into it, but also throw a few bucks at it. That's the surefire way to put a fire under someone, is to think, listen, do I really think there's something to be made here? And is there an opportunity? And I mean, right now, this must be one of the key times.
Look, you know, you could say, okay, when's a good entry point? Well, you know, are people, you know, worried if they're going to miss a penny or two because it's going to drift down a little bit lower? Okay, maybe there's some people that think that's the way they play this. But, you know, given the overall range of prices we're seeing in the junior space right now, it's hard to go too wrong. Okay, like this is a period in which you can pick things up cheaply. You can pick up a lot of stock, you know, in many companies in a big way, and then watch, you know, because these companies that have, I'll call it incipient discoveries, and I would put Barksdale in that category. You know, they could really pay off. Okay, you know, Barksdale, Sitka. You know, we got a number. I'm watching Tectonic here. I'm hoping they're seeing news. These are the discoveries of tomorrow. Okay, and I'm hopeful that we're starting to see, you know, an opportunity to position in these things, or let others get a position even. So.
Yeah, maybe walk us through that too, because you look at economic discoveries, and that's a big part of it. Is, and you just touched on something, is like building a position. And for someone who's newer, often you hear someone who says, "I went all in." I went all in at this one at this price. You go, no, don't dive all in into one thing, unless you've got tons of years of experience and you really know what you've got. It's better to build a position. So give us an example of how you do that.
Okay, look, it is. I mean, everybody's different. I can't provide financial advice. And okay, I'm not a geologist, for God's sake. But you know, I myself, I mean, I can speak to that. I can say that I have exposure to a pretty broad number of companies where I'm compelled, and these are mainly the Crescat portfolio. Okay, because I also invest personally in those, and I distribute that kind of risk across a number of companies. Probably right now, I probably have 45, 50 different companies that I'm investing. I seldom, you know, go all in on one particular story. Now, that said, usually when you see a discovery made and you can see, gee, this, you know, I feel good about this. Like as a geologist, I tend to go a bit heavier into
Sure.
that story.
Yep.
Okay. Once I see that compelling evidence. Okay. And so, when I see stuff like this drilling that Barksdale's doing, it gets me fired up. And, I say geologically, I feel comfortable putting more money in. Correct.
Excellent. And that's what I mean. I'm not giving you financial advice as well. My background is that we're working at Merrill Lynch, but it's always safer to watch the news and to build a position. That way you're vested in this story as well. And I always kind of say reward management and the technical team and the entire project by if they're meeting milestones, if they're doing what they say they're doing, and they're getting the results, because a lot of times, like we've seen for years, the market hasn't been great to us, but still the work is done and it's looking great. And that, once again, you go back to Warren Buffett, you go, hey, it's cheaper. That's great. The price doesn't necessarily reflect what you've got often.
No, it doesn't. And one of the big questions I get asked a lot is like, from people just email that, when do I get out? Like, should I sell? And look, I don't have an easy answer for you, but I can tell you this: it takes some patience with some of these discoveries. Look at Barksdale. It's taken a while for us to get a hole successfully down to target depth here. I'm not going to say it's been easy. Okay, it's tough to get a hole down 4,400 feet or wherever we're at right now. But we hit. Okay, sometimes you have to have that element of patience, and a lot of people want instant gratification, especially in this day and age. Okay, and that's a big problem we have in this space. I will stand by some companies like Magotes, for example. I know darn good and well that piece of ground which adjoins Filo has the rest, in my view, of the Filo type systems. There's more porphyries there.
Yeah.
Did the rocks change because they lost 2 pennies yesterday or whatever? No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. And, it kind of drives me nuts, to be frank, when people ask me, oh, do you think I should sell it? I don't know, guys, but I'm going to stick with stories, and patience is what pays off. Okay. That's my.
That's what's so important. Having someone like yourself on as well is to remind people, because, mining isn't like crypto where it's in your face every day, all day long. Every Instagram post is some other FOMO thing. People are reminded and it's flashed in their face, or Tesla or whatever else, Google. It's easy to forget, wait, why am I in this story? And they need to be reminded. And once they're reminded from someone like yourself, they go, oh my God, that's right. Okay. Yeah. And they'll be patient again. But it's just having that reminder that you're sitting on something, and that something has a potential of being asymmetric, of being a very big upside for a very small investment.
That's right. That's the game. Yep.
Well, I'm going to let you go here because I know you're waiting on important news. But and we've talked, what would you sum up, like from a technical point of view as well from Barksdale, what we should look for next, and kind of like, I guess, without getting promotional, that size and scope, because once again, what you look for, what a major looks for is size, scope, something significant. And I've heard before, like if you're looking for a porphyry, you better have a ton of money. But you're saying, well, we're very close to a porphyry. That tells me,
we're not chasing the porphyry right now. Okay, we know there's a Sunnyside porphyry near us, or near this system. All right. We don't know for sure, for example, that is the actual driver here. Sometimes porphyries are composite. In other words, you might get multiple porphyries tucked together, and which one is driving the system, you don't know. Okay. But that's not the main focus we have right now. The main focus in this drill hole was to get down into that regime where we know the Taylor deposit and also this Peak deposit are projecting. And we've now successfully demonstrated we found the extensions of that mineralization. Okay, that's a huge accomplishment. Now we got to see assays. You asked what's next catalyst? Assays, we got to see those. Okay, let's see what the copper numbers are, and the lead and silver and so forth. I think that's very important. Hopefully that will confirm what we suspect is a good outcome here. But then we need to come back at this. Okay, so I've been talking with the technical team, which Alan Roberts, a good friend of mine, been friends for many years, and he's running the program. If there's anybody that can get the drill holes down, Alan's the guy. Okay, and we've been talking about how we approach the next steps here. I'm not going to say we have any fully cemented yet because we've got to get board approval and discuss it, at length and stuff. But we will figure out how to now expand upon this. We are continuing to drill this hole. It's tough. It's deep. We'll see what's down there. Maybe we can get another couple hundred meters. I don't know. We'll see. But we are already starting to strategize how we step out from here and start to expand this. Look, as soon as people see, especially S32, oh my gosh, these guys have actually got the goods on their ground.
Yeah.
It's going to change the whole dynamic of this story. It's going to be a very positive story that can really snowball and grow from there.
Excellent. Well, that's what we like to hear. We really appreciate you, Dr. Hennigh, coming on and chatting about a couple of the big wins with Crescat. We're big fans of the show. We're big fans of Tavi and his continuous work over there as well. We love chatting with him. And
Tavi's a hero.
He's a rock star. He's a fun interview as well. And this is the first time I've got to interview you as well. And it's so critical for us to be able to show our subscribers, people that watch, the technical aspect without getting too much in the weeds, because it's hard to learn geology. It's hard to do one video and try to ascertain a PhD level of understanding of rocks. But we could easily ask the questions to say, here's the success you've had. You know what you're looking at. You know what you're looking for, and people can lean on that and look at the examples that we've talked about, just a few of them that you've been involved in, to set the stage for what's happening for 2025, 2026. And it looks like it's going to be a good year.
I love this game. I'll look forward to talking to you more. I think we have many, many more opportunities to discuss some of these discoveries that are being made.
Beautiful. Well, thanks so much. And once again, all the best wishes for a good, happy result today when you get the call here. And we really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Take care.
Take care.